Rian Johnson has turned to Star Wars in an attempt to rescue the beloved series from the clutches of vile gangster George Lucas. However, J.J. Abrams has constructed a new Star Wars movie of his own. Now completed, Diminishing Returns must face the film, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and pass judgment as we await the release of The Last Jedi.
Welcome to the third in our great trilogy of Star Wars episodes, not including the original Star Wars. Today we'll be talking about The Force Awakens, which is the latest proper Star Wars film. And we're talking about it now because it's tying into a film that is coming out this week called Star Wars, the next film.
The Last
Jedi! I knew it! The Last Jedi. Star Wars... The Last Jedi, a Star Wars story. That's what it's called. It's coming out. What?
It's just Star Wars, semicolon, The Last Jedi.
Okay, so that's coming out this week, and so we've been leading up to it for the last 3 weeks. There's 2 previous episodes if you'd like to go and listen to them. We'll be talking all about Star Wars. This episode we're particularly talking about The Force Awakens and its direct sequel. So, my name is Alan. I'm here with Sol.
Hello.
And Calvin.
Hello.
Saul and I are not fussed about Star Wars. Calvin's a big fan, and that's where we create drama and conflict and hilarity. Please do listen as we now talk about The Force Awakens. Go.
I think it's great.
I thought it was all right, actually.
I fucking hate it.
Oh, brilliant.
Hey, we've got a good one. We're going to have a good show.
Brilliant. Should we talk about how we came to this? Because obviously this is this was a huge deal when it was coming out. This was the first film that Lucasfilm released since being acquired by Disney, and it was decided that the sequel trilogy was going to be made at all after years of George Lucas umming and ahhing, saying, "Oh yeah, no, I totally intended on doing it," and then, "Oh no, I didn't." And he was supposed to be directing this. He was going to make
not after the Disney deal.
Not after the Disney deal, but he was going to make Episode 7 and then sell the company, because the idea behind that was that, oh look, how lucrative and successful this movie was, you can buy my company now and then make the rest of them if you want. But apparently it was just, they were like, oh no, actually you don't even need to make that, we'll just take it now.
Disney said, if you make another film, we're not buying.
Well, I think, originally they did have a load of story ideas and outlines for George Lucas. Like, he outlined what he thought the sequel trilogy should look like, and they just disregarded it. And, no, we're gonna do our own thing, actually. But yeah, I couldn't have been more hyped to see this film. I was very, very lucky that I got to go to the European premiere of the film in London. Walk down the red carpet. So I had a wonderful first-time viewing experience for the film. It was a huge premiere, obviously. It was like walking down the red carpet, though obviously there was a line of bodyguards between myself and the stars.
The important people.
Yes, pretty much. But they were all there, like Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Daisy Ridley, Kathleen Kennedy was there. They had BB-8, Warwick Davis. It was a very, very exciting experience.
Mark Hamill, big part of this film.
Well, that was the thing, because the secrecy around it was so tight, and we'd seen clips of Harrison Ford in trailers. We'd seen, one clip of Carrie Fisher. Nothing of Mark Hamill at all.
Well, if they'd shown a second of his contribution to the film, that'd be pretty much his entire contribution to the film spoiled, so...
Yeah, but he gets second billing. He gets billing over Carrie Fisher.
As Alan's already said, I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I think the original trilogy is okay, but I'm not a massive fan, and I get annoyed by all the fanboyism. But I was excited for this because, well, George Lucas wasn't involved. They were getting a real filmmaker in, J.J. Abrams, to make it. So from the outset, I was expecting this to be the first Star Wars movie that I could really enjoy, like, properly. Because I was expecting J.J. Abrams to do what he did to Star Trek, to Star Wars, which was just make a really fun romp that isn't too bogged down in its own mythos and what have you. And the trailers were all quite cool, and you know, and yeah, and also, as we've touched on in past episodes, I have a real thing. It's one of my boxes you can tick that will just score extra points with me. If you put older versions of characters in a film, if we look at how a character develops as an old man, and obviously this film was going to feature a lot of old Han Solo, given all the trailers and stuff. So I was really quite excited to see it. And I went in with about as open a mind as you could hope for for someone who's not a massive fan of the franchise to go in with. And I fucking hate it. I hate this film. It fucks me off. It's so shit.
Well, I suppose I had a similar experience to you, Calvin. I mean, I watched it on DVD last night. But there was similar pomp and circumstance. And if you listen to last week's episode, I said how Rogue One felt more like an adult film, and this one took me back to kids' film. This felt like a Star Wars kids action film, but it basically delivered what you expect from that. And I was all right with it, and it was a sort of an action romp, and it was fine. So I haven't got like major problems with it. I'm sure I can pick bits out, but it seemed like entertaining kind of kiddie nonsense. It was.
See, that's the thing. I don't find it entertaining. I find it so boring for the most part. And I rewatched it for this episode and made notes, and I enjoyed it a lot more on the rewatch because I wasn't in the cinema and I could just go on my phone when it got boring and I didn't have to pay it that much attention. But in the cinema, trapped there, I was squirming in my seat. I was furious, and honestly, but we'll get to it. Like I say, I've made notes going through.
Okay then. Well, shall we go through the film then and talk about points?
It starts, as is customary, with an opening crawl.
Yes, the best opening crawl, I think.
Don't know about
maybe it's just because of the last ones we looked at. It was.
I would argue that the best opening crawl was the first opening crawl when it was a fresh idea, and every time since it's just been like, right, this is the thing we do. And I thought it was fine. It was nice. It kind of got you pumped. Like I say, when I went into this the first time round, I was genuinely excited for it. I was really trying my best to be a Star Wars fanboy and finally get it all. So yeah, I enjoyed the opening crawl.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker has vanished, being like the first line of it is just, I got shivers down my spine. Yes, because I was going to see one of my childhood heroes on screen again.
No, but he's vanished.
In the form of C-3PO, and then Luke Skywalker is in the film too, so that's good as well.
He's not in the film, he's like, I am nearly in this film as much as Luke Skywalker. Do you want to know one of the biggest reasons why I was so disappointed with this film, actually? The trailer, to me, and what little online rumblings and chatter had kind of punched through the wall I put up and managed to get to me, all heavily suggested that Luke was going to the dark side and he was going to be the main villain of this film.
What?
Well, in the trailer, it really looks like they're setting up Luke as the big bad, and I kind of thought...
In which trailer? For The Force Awakens?
Yeah, whichever one I saw. It really looked to me like they were playing...
He's not even in the trailers.
Exactly. I don't know. It came across to me, I really thought they were doing the unthinkable thing of making Luke go to the dark side, and I thought that was a genuinely bold, interesting step that made sense... Because, it's corrupted him, having his dad do all that and die. And I was like, that's a really interesting way to play it. And then I get to this film, and it's like, oh no, it's just bog standard Hollywood, what you'd expect. So just getting that out the back, like that annoyed me. But obviously that's not entirely the film's fault.
I don't even know how you got that reading out of the trailers.
I don't know. I think a lot of fan theories were floating around that it was going to happen. I mean, there were similarly fan theories floating around that Jar Jar Binks was going to be the big bad of the film. There was a very compelling fan theory about that. Even though they obviously weren't going to do that. But I don't know, because like I say, I tried to avoid reading anything about the film, really, partly because I'm not interested, but partly because when I know I'm going to see a film, I try and avoid information about it until I've seen it anyway, and go in fresh. So whatever I'd taken in, it just looked to me like they were setting him up to be a villain that was redeemed, much like Vader, and that would be a really quite interesting, emotionally satisfying arc, and one that's a lot more real than I was expecting. And then, obviously they didn't do it. But anyway, then we meet BB-8 rolling around in the desert. Is that right?
Yes. Well, BB-8 and one of the new stars, Oscar Isaacs.
So BB-8.
Oscar Isaac.
BB-8 would be quite a cool little droid design if it wasn't just something they saw in The Phantom Menace, as I discussed a couple of weeks ago, and thought, we'll have that and take credit for it.
I think it's a cute little droid. It's obviously the new generation R2-D2. But I think it's a really cute little design. When you see the behind the scenes stuff, like that thing actually, it exists. I've seen it.
Well, you can tell because the way it moves in the film is so like a fucking puppet. Its head moves around like a little thing on a stick. It's like really clunky movements, and it took me out of it on the rewatch. It felt like you guys are trying so hard to adhere to practical effects, and I'm for that, but
yes. God, yes, after the prequels, my God. They made a big song and dance as well in a lot of promotional materials about how they were using real masks and...
Yeah, but as we discussed in the prequels, Yoda, when he's a puppet, looks shit in The Phantom Menace. He looked much better in Attack of the Clones. When he
and
CGI.
He looked much better in Empire Strikes Back, I would say.
That is true, that is a fair point. Look, I'm generally all for practical effects, but I don't know, BB-8 just seems really wonky in a way that I don't think he's meant to. Like, there's a little man just moving a stick around with a robot head on it.
I mean, admittedly, there are some shots where there are, like, men in green screen suits, like, running behind him to, like, keep him moving at a certain speed or something. So it is...
That makes sense, because I assumed it was all, like, remote control, and it just looked like an awkward puppet because of... But no, that's probably actually what it was, I guess, just an awkward puppet.
I think, if he's moving fast or doing some, like, really dynamic movements, then it's...
Yeah, it's when he was, like... When Rey would be talking to him and he'd kind of be looking in and stuff, it was just like, oh Christ, it's like fucking Salem on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Season 1.
Did you like him, Alan? BB-8?
Well, it's just R2-D2, isn't it?
Okay. You know that Bill Hader was a voice consultant for BB-8, the guy from Napoleon Dynamite?
No, that's John Hader.
Oh.
Bill Hader's a Saturday Night Live guy, isn't he?
Bill Hader is he's in Superbad. He works on South Park now. He's mates
I just
with Trey
googled
Parker.
him. Yeah. So Oscar Isaac is one of the first new stars that we meet.
Now this is the first thing that fucked me off about this film.
Oh.
I fucking hate this character.
Oh.
It's such a transparent attempt to just have Han Solo again.
It's
so lazy. I hate it. And you know what? Like, he's there. And then he gets killed off pretty early on. And I was like, all right. That was like they were saying, we're going to have Han Solo. No, we're not. New characters. And that would be good. But then he shows up halfway through the fucking film. And it's like, oh.
Well, that's what it was supposed to be, you know. He was originally supposed to die. And then J.J. Abrams rewrote the thing. And yeah.
That would have worked as a, like I say, we're doing classic Star Wars. No, we're not. We're going in a new direction. Like, that would have been good. But instead, we're doing classic Star Wars. Oh yeah, and we're going to just repeat everything from the original trilogy. And I mean, that's the biggest problem I have with this film. It's a series of things from the original trilogy, particularly the first Star Wars film, but a little bit The Empire Strikes Back, rehashed and not as good. And there's nothing new in this film.
I don't know about that. I think that John Boyega's character is something that we've never really seen in Star Wars
I'll give you
before.
Him. I've never really cared about stormtroopers, but then suddenly we're given a stormtrooper who's like imbued with a little bit of character here, and it's quite refreshing and interesting to see that and be reminded that these are all individual people and they're not just, faceless nothing.
Well, I thought that because I thought the whole point was they were faceless clones.
Well, yeah.
Well, I guess this takes place after that when the clone army has been destroyed, and so they're having to just conscript people. So I guess it's logical, but it does it does kind of take a different direction to humanize the
Yeah.
stormtroopers, doesn't it?
My main problem with this, they try to have their cake and eat it too with him, because, yeah, if you want to say, oh yeah, it is people underneath those helmets, and he obviously has a crisis, he doesn't want to do it, but he's quite readily he's quite readily, killing his, previous comrades later on with no thought to, oh, maybe actually if I talk to some of these people, they might be like-minded.
That's it. If we humanize them, then killing them is suddenly more problematic.
Exactly.
But I had the same feeling, basically, and it kind of comes up in my sequel pitch, that I just felt they didn't make any use of the fact that he'd been a stormtrooper. And he could have just as easily been a character who was one of the villagers and escaped. And helped Poe escape, or just a guy who just turned up and like got sucked into this story. But I think that is something that they'll play on later on, and that's the problem with creating films as part of an ongoing plot, is that you lose elements in the individuals.
And then we're introduced to our new Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, and he is just a shit knockoff Darth Vader.
I mean, to the point where he looks at Darth Vader's helmet and goes, I want to be more like you.
I mean, I think that's intentional. I mean, yeah.
And so it's Adam Driver. How
Yes.
How the fuck did that happen? What's going on?
Who is he?
Well, I love Adam Driver. He is one of the lead actors in the show Girls, where he plays a kind of petulant, like white privilege, prone to anger, out of work actor who gets angry and smashes up rooms and has tantrums. But it's a comedy. It's a sitcom.
Well, he does that. That's basically what he does as Kylo Ren.
and then he's cast in this film as pretty much the same thing, but it's meant to be serious. Is it? I mean, is it? Because this is the thing. Watching this film, I do not know how you're supposed to take Kylo Ren. Because is it meant to be a big joke? Because there is that scene where it's a joke and the stormtroopers walk in and go and walk away. But is it meant to be serious? Because the idea that this like angry teenager who's like not mature and just angry is in charge of everything, that's quite a good idea, and you could make that very scary.
He's been put into power because of his midichlorians or whatever, and so that makes him special, and so he's been sort of thrust into the limelight before he's emotionally ready for it.
But you could make that a very genuinely threatening character, but I never know how you're meant to take it in this film. It doesn't come across as threatening at any point. It only ever comes across as silly and funny, and at one point the film asks you to laugh at it. So I don't know if it's meant to be I just don't know how you're meant to take it. It doesn't work.
I don't think it's supposed to be silly. I mean, yeah, he has a tantrum at one point and we're supposed to laugh, but then similarly, Darth Vader was killing Imperial officers in one of the other episodes and we're supposed to find that funny.
Darth Vader doesn't come across like a petulant kid with a bad haircut, whereas...
I mean, in the prequels he does.
Yeah, he does, but those weren't very good.
No, I mean, I know what you mean. It wasn't a problem for me. I think it's well judged there's another scene where there's an Imperial officer delivering some bad news, and Kylo Ren reacts by, like, slashing up one of the computer consoles near him, and we're supposed to think that that's funny. And then he sort of turns on a dime at the next bit of bad news, and he, like, grabs the guy by the throat, and then I think we're supposed to find him intimidating and scary. But the scene that really stands out to me, where I don't know what we're supposed to think exactly, is the scene where he takes his helmet off. He has his helmet off for most of the film, and at one point he's interrogating one of the other characters. He takes his helmet off, and the music is building to this moment. He takes the helmet off, and it's just Adam Driver, and I think we were all sort of expecting, well, he's going to have some kind of scar or something, maybe.
Throughout the whole film, like, honestly, when I first saw it, I was so frustrated he had that helmet on. Because, like I say, I'm a fan of his. I like him as an actor. I think he's a very talented man. And I was so frustrated he had that helmet on. I couldn't wait for him to take the helmet off. Then he took it off, and it was like, no, put it on again. That haircut's ridiculous. You look silly. This doesn't work.
But my note when he took the mask off was, oh, well, you can see why he wears the mask. He kind of comes across as an angsty teen. I think it fits that. You know, when he takes the mask off and he's actually sort of a normal-looking guy, that's like the point. It's like, oh, he's... So Nobody cared who I was until I put on the mask?
I mean, it was clearly cast because he looks just like the child of Han Solo and Princess Leia as well. He looks just like Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, doesn't he?
Well, at this point, of course, we don't know that. But we do quite swiftly move to a desert planet, which is obviously Tatooine.
Hang on. I do need to mention that Kylo Ren has a lightsaber with handle bits.
I wanted to mention that as well. What is the advantage of that? In fact, it seems like a major disadvantage. It's just going to cut your hands off.
That is again, it takes you out of the film because you go, oh, well, of course they had to come up with something new and they couldn't. They couldn't beat perfection because the original design was spot on.
The double Darth Maul double thing works. It makes sense, and it means he fights in a different way.
That's it. It gives him a new style of fighting that this doesn't really do. Because all it means is he can kind of hold the lightsaber at bay, but they do that anyway, just with the middle of the lightsaber in their battles. So it just
it's nonsense.
I don't mind. I think it looks cool.
I think that sets the tone for this film. It's rehashed stuff from the old films, not done as well, without the impact that they had when we first saw them.
I mean, yeah, you're right. That's the thing. It is just a New Hope again. And I'll say, I mean, that wasn't something. I mean, it's apparent when you're watching the film. I remember when I was first watching it. It was quite a while in. It was basically when they're all, much later in the film, they're all stood around a hologram of the new planet killer thing, the star base, Star Killer base. And they're like, this is how big the Death Star was, and this is how big this is, and it's much bigger, and it's...
And they conveniently forget to mention the other Death Star that was built that was bigger than the first Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. It's like...
I honestly, I really think it's unforgivable the level to which this film does it. It's offensive. I don't know. It's like they think the audience must have the IQ of a child, and yet people lapped it up and loved it. So I guess never underestimate the public. Saying
that, Saul, you've made this criticism before in other episodes of the show, like the Blair Witch film, Evil Dead. That sort of sequel remakes go. You're much more forgiving to them.
Well, Evil Dead 2 was an entirely new genre, so although...
Oh, I was talking about the...
Oh, the actual remake. Oh, well, it was a very different film tonally and in terms of, I mean, what I'll say is there's a lot more scope to do something new in the Star Wars universe than there is with a load of kids in a cabin in the woods. The rehash of Star Wars was Return of the Jedi, and I let them do it that one time without getting too hung up on it. But this is another rehash again, and that's the thing. It's the fact that it's so blatant, and it's just, we've done the Death Star twice already, let's do it a third time. If this was the first time they brought back a Death Star, I would have gone with it. But it's not. And like I say, it's everything in this film. It's not just the Death Star element. It's everything. There's a Yoda stand-in, there's a Han Solo stand-in, all the characters. There's a new Darth Vader that's just Darth Vader, and none of them are as good as the original characters, and you're just sat there wishing you were watching the original characters instead.
I mean, I think all these criticisms are perfectly valid, and there's no sort of comeback to them, but it just doesn't bother me all that much in this, and I'm not sure if it is just because I have so much goodwill coming into the film, seeing Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and C-3PO and all these other characters from this universe, and I just kind of go with it. I'm all right with that.
Anyway, then we're introduced to Rey, our protagonist for the film, who's scavenging a ship.
Yes, played by Daisy Ridley. Okay, she's on a desert planet, and this really bothers me, just following on from what Sol was saying about similarities with A New Hope. This isn't Tatooine. It's a new planet called Jakku, but it might as well be Tatooine, am I right? But they obviously don't want to say it's Tatooine because they don't want to have a plucky young hero coming from the exact same planet.
Yeah.
But if it's not going to be Tatooine, don't make it a desert planet. Make it something else.
Yeah, make it a volcano
planet. It really bothers
planet.
me.
Make it
anything.
A crystal, like a diamond planet. And we're introduced to Simon Pegg as Ungar Plutt, who is one of the highlights of the film, although I'm not sure if I'm a fan or not. He's certainly one of the better elements in there.
He's back in the sequel.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't mind him as a 1/4 portion, like
just very one-dimensional character.
But I cannot stand when they steal that ship and he runs out and goes, "Hey, that's mine!" It's like they'd written brackets placeholder funny line, and then they came to shooting, and no one could think of like a good line for him to say. So he just goes, "That's mine." Oh, it's so. But he gives her she's scavenging parts from a ship, and she trades them in for food, and then she goes home and she puts powder in some water and it turns into bread, and that's a really nice little moment. Just a cool little space bread.
Yeah. She lives in an 8080. It's brilliant. I love that. I love that scene where she's just sat eating her dinner and she puts on the pilot's helmet and she sees a starship flying off somewhere in the distance and she looks over at it and she's just, I think it's really nice.
And then after this, we're introduced to General Hux, played by Ron Weasley's brother, Kylo Ren's kind of aide. And he is quite possibly the worst actor I have ever seen in a mainstream film. His performance is unforgivable. It is appalling. Every line that comes out of his mouth, and it's not like he has to emote very much in this film, is cringy. Agree? Disagree?
Well, I was trying to figure out like what he was trying to do with it. It felt like he was trying to do something that maybe didn't work, and like it needed more direction. Because because he was basically, it becomes a big Nazi thing by the end, and so he's kind of doing this very kind of wide-eyed, slightly psychotic, evil guy. But it felt like he'd gone with a character decision, and then it just never worked.
Well, that's it. Like, that character decision I'm on board with. I just don't think he's very good at doing it.
My problem with it is that he just goes far too broad, and it's we've never seen a character like that. Like, Peter Cushing was very reserved, very, when they blew up the planet in A New Hope, he didn't have a tear in his eye like the guy does in The Force Awakens. And there's just a lip snarl too much in every scene he's in. There's just too much intensity in his eyes. There's too much, like, pantomime Captain Hook villain, but without the jokes. Well, apparently in Oscar Isaac, I think he complained about this. He said that, he would do every scene a variety of ways, a variety of intensity, and J.J. Abrams would always choose the most sort of over-the-top, enthusiastic take. And I wonder if that was a similar thing here with Domhnall Gleeson, because I think he's a good actor in other stuff. I've seen him in Ex Machina, Harry Potter, he's fine. I think he's a perfectly good actor. And
then, Poe comes back again, I think, because I've written a note about him. And
Poe comes back and...
I just wish they'd waited till Han Solo was, like, dead and buried before they started ripping him off.
Yeah. But he meets John Boyega's character, who breaks him out of captivity because he needs a pilot to get him off this Star Destroyer, because he has decided that he wants to leave the Empire, whatever it is called.
John Boyega's character, Finn, it's called. With Finn, I just feel like, the character never goes anywhere, and I think it's going to play out later. We just got no backstory for him either. We didn't get anything to grab hold of, so he was just sort of floating around in this film, and it was just...
I think up until this point, you're given enough, but a good film would start dripping in backstory at this point, and you never get that. It just kind of forgets that he's there, almost, because then it transitions into Daisy Ridley. What's her character? Rey. It transitions into her as a protagonist and kind of forgets that he's even there.
His arc sort of finishes, halfway through the film. It's basically that he needs to, grow some balls and pluck up the courage to do the right thing. But he does that by the midpoint of the film. So for the next hour, he's kind of
just in the
really
background,
going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't even think we doubt at any point that, maybe he'll go back to his stormtrooper ways or anything like that.
No, there's never any conflict within him, is there? So I kind of like that.
I think Rey and Finn are both decent enough characters that I'm kind of happy to see how their story plays out in future films. They're pretty much the only two new characters that I would even say I don't dislike in this film, but yeah,
I think the actors both do good jobs.
Yeah.
They've got good chemistry.
And I particularly like Finn in that I think there's potential for something interesting there, even though this film completely ignores it. What a note here is that I find the action scenes in this film like weirdly boring. I just completely switch off of them. I feel like I'm Alan, because Alan just does this with everything, and he hates action.
Are you talking about this bit when, because Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and BB-8 all meet up, and they are being pursued by stormtroopers, and they find the Millennium Falcon?
Yes. And then the second they're on the Millennium Falcon, and then there's like this noise, and they're being docked by like another ship, and it's played like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And it's like, well, of course it's gonna be fucking Han Solo and Chewie. Like, not only have we seen the trailer, but of course it's gonna be Han Solo and Chewie, obviously. And I was so annoyed that they like played it like this big thing, and then they walk in and they wait for the audience applause to die down, and
I wasn't expecting that. I'd forgotten that they were in it. In fact, the note I wrote when it happened was, oh god, I forgot all the pensioners were in this. Because I had forgotten that they were coming back in. So, yeah, but prior to that, it was aggravating me, all this... And I don't know if there's going to play out some justification of it later on, but the coincidence, basically, that this planet just happens to be the one where the Force girl lives. The fact that the first bit of civilization he comes to, not only is the robot there that he's looking for that could be anywhere on the planet, also the girl who's the only person who could realistically help him.
They've already explained it.
And then it's like, oh look, it's the Millennium Falcon. That's a weird coincidence, isn't it?
They've already explained it, Alan. George Lucas did this back in The Phantom Menace. It's midichlorians guiding everyone.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is there some sort of in-universe explanation that the Force just sort of makes things happen as plot contrivances?
Midichlorians.
I can go with a lot of these plot contrivances, as we call them. But the only one that I can't go with is that because they're barely off the planet 5 minutes when they're being, taken into another ship, and it just so happens to be Han Solo and Chewbacca, who was apparently, he drops the line about like how he's been looking for the ship or something like that. And it's like, well, you were very close then, mate.
Yeah.
And my note about Harrison Ford actually is that he looks like he's high in all of his scenes. But it looks like he kind of had to get high because his joints were hurting because he's a bit old.
That's it. It's probably all the painkillers he's on.
Yeah.
Just to keep him moving.
He broke a leg, on the set, because one of those sliding Millennium Falcon doors went down too early or too late or something, and filming had to be suspended for a while, I believe.
I like Harrison Ford, and I was happy for him to show up in this film. But at the same time, on the rewatch, it did feel a bit awkward and like he wasn't quite sure. It reminded me that he's not an actor. You know how Alan was slagging him off in our Blade Runner episode, and I was kind of defending him. Watching this, it's like, oh yeah, he is struggling a bit, isn't he?
It's just Harrison
I like
Ford.
him, but
he looks like he's having fun here, which is more than what he in other films from later on in his career. You know what I was surprised about? I thought that Chewbacca was going to have a few grey hairs on him, but no.
That would have been good.
I thought they were just going to hint at a bit of an aging thing, and then it occurred to me, well, no, obviously they're not going to do that, because Chewbacca is, you can put anyone in that costume, as long as they're tall, and you can market that character. It's a mask. Yeah. You can put him on a cereal box. He never has to change.
Are Wookiees, do they live hundreds of years then?
Apparently so, I guess, considering he hasn't changed since,
Well, we see him in the prequels and he looks exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly.
They can have new characters that are just Wookiees and look exactly the same. And then the film just stops dead, but for a half-hour sequence about a slug that's nothing to do with anything attacking everyone on the spaceship.
Yeah, this whole chunk is my least favourite section of the film.
There's no need for any of it. Just cut the whole fucking scene.
Well, this is... Okay, here's a bit of fun action. We just run around a bit.
But we've just had a bit of fun action escape on the spaceship.
I guess it's to endear these new characters to Han and Chewbacca.
Yeah,
and they need to have this adventure to fully trust one another.
Okay, we're all on the same side.
I think it would have been a lot better if they just had them do that when they land and encounter Kylo Ren and have a bit of a fight there. Just deal with it then.
Yeah, maybe.
It's so clearly just shouldn't be here. It's just a tangent.
I mean, it is the first and only time that we see Han Solo actually smuggling anything. To say he is supposed to be a smuggler.
Yeah, true.
But then we get Han Solo behind the controls of the Millennium Falcon, and that brought a tear to my eye on my first.
You see,
viewing.
and I think Saul will probably agree with me. They put that in there for people like you, and then for people like us, it just seems like, oh god, this is such a wanky bit of nonsense.
It's a real moment, like when he goes in by himself and he just like rests on the chair and he's like looking around, smiling, like, haha, here I am.
Anyway, they heavily imply that Rey is Han Solo's daughter for a little bit as a kind of red herring.
Yes.
And that's a nice little...
Did they? I'm not sure I even picked up on that.
They have a lot of bonding, and he kind of gets a bit fatherly, and he's sort of like, yeah.
Well, at what point do we know that Kylo Ren is his son? Because
they land and doesn't Carrie Fisher come out, and then...
Yeah, I think it's just when we see Carrie Fisher again. I think that's when it's all revealed.
I know that I only ever thought that Rey was Luke's daughter.
Well, she still might be.
Well,
she
yeah,
obviously is.
Well, I don't know about that.
If she turns out not to be, it's because they've gone, it's too obvious, let's throw a spanner at it.
There are theories that she could be Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter.
Same thing.
Which means that he would have to have been very, very old.
Ghost.
And she'd have to have been born, like,
seed.
immediately. Sort of.
The other thing about Rey's backstory, and we sort of see she refuses to leave the planet she's on, even though she's got a shit life, because her family's coming back. But then when we actually get the full backstory, she was like abandoned when she was 4 or something. It's like who's like 15, 16 years later, however old she's supposed to be, is going to be holding on to that. That never added up for me. It never made sense. That character should have had more like, oh yeah, I've kind of got a memory of something happened and this person, and then they left, and I don't remember anything. God, get me off this planet. As soon as an opportunity comes, I'm going to be off here. In fact, I'm saving up all my quarter portions to fuel this jet. I'm going to build myself and get off here.
No, you can't do that, because then she is just Luke Skywalker again. The difference between her and Luke is that Luke couldn't wait to get off the planet, or his desert planet. She wants to stay on hers.
But she is practically just Luke Skywalker again, and they even dress her like Luke Skywalker.
It feels like they've gone, this is Luke Skywalker. Let's just change it. Let's say she doesn't want to leave. Why? She thinks her family's coming back. All right, yeah, let's put in a 30-second bit that explains that. Okay.
And so there you go. So at this point, we've got Luke Skywalker knockoff, Darth Vader knockoff, Han Solo knockoff,
and Han Solo as well.
And Han Solo,
just to annoy him.
Yeah. And R2D2
knockoff.
Oh, and a Yoda knockoff, but we've not got to that yet.
That makes John Boyega C-3PO.
There's only one C-3PO.
So then the film lands in this green place anyway. They deal with Kylo Ren and everything, and it's...
Is this where they go and meet the minion, and then we get all the sort of Luke lightsaber connection and all that?
Maz Kanata.
They go to a knockoff cantina to visit knockoff Yoda, who is a giant minion, and that's it. That is it. There's nothing about it. It's just a minion.
It annoys me that in that cantina scene there are no callbacks to... I know I complained last week about too many callbacks, but all of the alien creatures in this cantina look completely new, and it would be nice.
Yeah, we should have had, Gloopy McDrool, his cousin, playing the recorder.
Bassoon.
Yeah.
I would have liked that. I would have liked... Because I was looking out for it, and it was kind of disappointing that it wasn't there.
But it's around this point that they, blow up a planet, and...
Yes, they blow up a whole system.
Yeah, and they somehow make it boring. Isn't that... how did they manage to make that so dull?
It's an odd, music choices. It doesn't help that we don't know anyone on the planet. There was some deleted footage because is it Freema Agyeman, the actress?
Who, sorry?
I don't know who that is.
Freema Agyeman. She was a Doctor Who companion for 2 series, and she is when we see the planet being blown up, it gives you a close up of a woman.
Yeah, is she the one looking up at the sky all worried?
Yeah.
Well, they should have left that in.
No, but then that would have revealed Leia much earlier than it did in the film.
So?
Leia had a different introduction. And I agree, I would have been all for her being introduced earlier, because C-3PO was introduced earlier too.
Yeah, get more Leia in there. That's great. We want the original actors in there. And at this point, it's like 40 minutes into the film anyway, isn't it? My note here is there's no sense of impact or consequence for blowing up an entire planet. If they'd had that scene in there, it sounds like they would have given us a bit of something there on a human level.
Yeah, I'd like to address something here that seems to just be let go in the world of Star Wars. In a world that has sophisticated projectile weapons, a lightsaber's a bit of a shit weapon that's only used for close combat.
Well, you can reflect laser shots relatively easily if you've got one, so it's a good defensive weapon if you're a skilled Jedi. Maybe you should carry a blaster and a lightsaber, so that when you go into like the lightsaber duel with one hand, you can reach in for your blaster with the other hand and like go pew pew pew.
Well, shouldn't it be able to double up? Like you press one button, it shoots, and then you press the stick it to 3 feet button, and
that'd be good for Last Jedi. They should do that. That's the next lightsaber, the improved model. That's actually an improvement.
It makes a lot more sense than putting a.
It's the same, but you press a button, then it gets really long. So if you stood on the other side of the room, you go,
or like
it just like goes like a
whip.
really long lightsaber, and you kind of like a laser pointer into someone's face, and they go, get out of my eyes, and it chops their head up.
You can blind people with that.
I do like how John Boyega uses it like a blunt instrument, though. He's obviously not sword trained or anything like that, and I think that's a nice touch. It's also just nice to see someone who isn't a Jedi using one.
Well, that was something else, actually, that I thought it would be really good. What they should have done in the original thing, whatever, but got some fight specialist, some like sword fighting specialist, right, to create a kind of lightsaber fighting style. You know, if you're fencing, then it's all designed with a point on the end. If you're sword fighting broadswords, it's all like cutting edge. And so you do you're trying to do different things with it. Yeah. With a lightsaber, you can literally like poke it through someone, you can slice them, and you can't even let it touch you, otherwise it'll be very damaging. And I think that would create a very different fighting style. And I think if, in terms of creating a world that feels real, that would be really cool if there was a very distinct style that they fought in because of the way the weapon works.
You know what would be cool for a future villain as well? You give him like a special power glove on their left hand.
So they can handle
so they can handle the lightsaber like blade. So when they're caught in that standoff where they're holding the lightsabers against each other, they can like reach up with their left hand and push it in against the other person really slowly and menacingly. That'd be cool.
Or just use it. Yeah, or just use it as a defensive thing. You can parry the lightsaber away. That'd be cool. Cool.
Yeah, anyway, then the stormtroopers attack, and it's basically like the opening scene again, and it's just a bit dull. And then Kylo Ren shows up, and then my next note is that Admiral Akbar's back. Hooray!
Hooray! Yeah.
Is that a fair summation of what's going on?
Yeah, more or less. But we are sort of skirting over the Princess Leia, or General Leia as she now is, Han Solo reunion, which is a big moment for people like me. And C-3PO pops up and spoils the moment, which is nice as well. He's got a red arm. But yeah, so just on Carrie Fisher, because obviously she's not really an actress anymore at this point. But I thought she did kind of well. All things considered,
she plays it. But they have this reunion, but it plays in a way that works with those characters. That they're not over exuberant. Oh my god, I'm so in love with you kind of characters. They're always very too cool for the room kind of guys, and so that works when they have this meeting after many years. You know, there's still a bit of chemistry there, and it works. I think it's just enough. And they're like, we've got that kid that like went a bit astray. You might have to kill him.
I do think it's a real shame that, she was being set up to be quite a big part in episode 9, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's not happening anymore. They talked about the possibility of, CGIing her into it and stuff like that, but
give her the old Peter Cushing.
But I think they ultimately decided and came out and said they weren't going to do that, and the character is going to be killed off, I believe, in fact.
Yeah,
But
well,
you know, there's
going to
be there's going to be a character introduced like a third of the way through the film that is like, oh look, it's General Dolores. She's about 65. She's quite experienced in the Rebel Alliance. She'll help us out with this.
I do think it's a real.
Well, Laura Dern is in there, and Laura Dern seems like a good segue.
Yeah.
There.
I do think it's a real shame that, I don't know, they're clearly going in a direction and it's going to have to like segue and do something else, and I think it'll probably ultimately damage the film as a result.
You've seen the trailer for the new film, The Last Jedi, right?
Yeah, once in the cinema. I've forgotten everything about it.
Well, in the trailer, the way it plays in the trailer, it basically says Kylo Ren kills Princess Leia, General Leia.
I mean, I don't think they're going to kill her in the next film. I think they're going to wait until episode 9, and that's going to start with maybe even in the opening crawl, Princess Leia has died.
Well, have you seen the trailer?
Yeah.
I mean, it basically shows him killing her, but they may have obviously just fudged that to make it look that way. But it seems like what they did with Han Solo, they're just going to sort of do that again to get rid of her. It's like, oh right, we know he's definitely evil when he killed Han Solo. Well, now he's killed his mum as well. God. Well, what else have we got? Go on.
Well, then we're introduced to there being a bigger Death Star, and I think I've made my point pretty clear how much I hate that, and the fact that this is the third Death Star, and they're just literally rehashing the same old shit. So that's dreadful.
It's around about here where we have uncredited Stormtrooper cameo.
Yes, we need to touch on this for obvious reasons.
Daniel Craig. Did you spot him, Alan? Did you know he was there?
Well,
obviously,
has he got a helmet on?
Yes.
Well, obviously I didn't spot him then, did I?
You mean you couldn't tell?
Was he the particularly buff one that's wearing a suit that looks too tight for him? Has he got a Scottish accent?
Ding dong!
But yeah.
Oh no!
Oh no,
oh, hello, it's me, Stormtrooper Bond.
Oh no, I've banged my head on the door frame. Bloody hell.
Off he goes.
Seems like that's going to be a recurring thing after they've got Princes Harry and William, and who was the other one? Tom Hardy as stormtroopers in the next one.
Yeah, you have someone over to visit the set, and they're like, oh, just, we need a stormtrooper in the scene. Yeah, you have a little...
Totally pointless.
I mean, it doesn't detract from the film in any way. It's just a little bit of fun for the people making it, really, isn't it? I mean...
But it's all around here when they're on Starkiller Base and there's about to be a space battle outside with old TIE fighters and X-Wings and all that kind of stuff. All good. But yeah, we get to the point where Han Solo comes face to face with his son Kylo Ren.
This scene...
And tries to tempt him over to the light. And fails... and is killed in a very unsatisfying way for a fan such as myself.
I couldn't believe what shit I was watching. I couldn't believe it. This should have been such a powerful, important scene, and yet the second he enters that room, you know what's about to happen. There's no question of where the film is going. The film seems to think there is. The film seems to think it's being very clever, and you couldn't possibly pick up on the double meaning in the words that he's saying, and what's he possibly going to do? Well, of course, he's going to fucking chop him in half like Darth Maul. And it's so shit, because that's Han Solo, and I know there's something to be said for not giving your character an overblown death and dropping a bridge on him, but this is Star Wars, and it follows basic, like, archetypical conventions, and you want Han Solo to get a proper send-off if you're going to kill him. And I can appreciate that Harrison Ford almost certainly said, I'm only coming back if you kill me off, because I'm not doing this shit anymore. So I can appreciate that they couldn't write him into...
10 million quid.
Yeah, they couldn't write him into episodes 8 and 9 as much as, like, it's going to be a damn shame to not have him there, especially given that Carrie Fisher won't be there. And I get that it's an important turning point for Kylo Ren, but it's just handled so badly, and it's so predictable, and it's badly acted, and it's not the twist the film thinks it is, and it's really unsatisfying, and I hate it. It's just bad.
It is very unsatisfying, especially for a character like that to go out that way. Like, he's a smuggler, he's a wisecracker, he's everyone's favourite part of the first trilogy.
I don't know, I wasn't bothered by it. I was okay with this. I don't think... I mean, Calvin, what did you think? As a proper fan, you were unsatisfied?
I should have been moved. Like, if I'm gonna tear up at, Han Solo being in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, if I'm gonna get tingles when I see Leia come onto screen and C-3PO and all these things that are really pushing all my buttons, and for this I don't feel anything, and and it took me out of the film because I was like, this is a really big moment, and I knew it was coming, and I was waiting for it, because it's famous that Harrison Ford wanted to be killed off in the second film he was in, Empire Strikes Back. He's been wanting to be killed off for like 3 films in a row, so I just assumed going into it that that's what was going to happen. But yeah, for him to, and I don't even know if I wanted him to have a big, overblown hero's exit.
It just should have been emotional on some level. Like, even for not a big Star Wars fan, for someone like me who can appreciate that that's Han Solo, it just kind of happens, and then you get on with it, and it's just very unsatisfying and nothingy, and doesn't.
But the only person there who would care is Chewbacca, and he does his Chewbacca growl. What more do you want? That's the height of Chewbacca emotion.
Well, I like that he shoots Kylo Ren and he hits him with that crossbow gun. I think that's really good. The thing that really riles me up is later on when they return to the planet where Princess Leia is, General Leia. There's a moment where Leia is walking towards Rey, who she's never met before in her life, by the way, and her and Chewbacca cross paths. Like, literally, they're right next to each other, and they don't even look at each other. They don't, because she has felt through the Force that this has happened and Han Solo's dead. And they don't even look at each other. There's no acknowledgement. There's nothing. And that really upset me. And J.J. Abrams has come out and said that was a mistake.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but that's a big thing. Perhaps Wookiees just have no kind of emotional connection. Like, maybe they're just a very unempathetic race, and so that's why
I feel as though we see stuff that would contradict that in the other films. I might be wrong, and maybe the fact that he doesn't get given a medal at the end of Star Wars is them being like, well, it's going to be a waste of time. Wookiees don't care about anything, so just don't waste the money on it.
That's it. I feel like we're at a point now where I think like in he doesn't get a medal because no one thought that the audience would care, quite frankly. But we're at a point now where obviously the audience do care about him, and they're still not going to give him moments that they would give other characters, emotional moments.
Well, they did try in the Star Wars Holiday Special, and it didn't work out very well. So,
good point.
I watched this film 3 days ago, something like that. I can't tell you now what happens at the end, apart from she meets Luke right at the end. I don't know what... There's some big battle thing, and Kylo Ren must get away because he's still in the films.
Yep.
There's a big lightsaber battle out in the snow between Rey and Kylo, which is pretty cool. And then there's a very convenient earthquake, which separates the two of them. Finn is sort of slashed up the back with a lightsaber.
Was he?
That sounds a bit dirty, actually, saying that. But he is. Yeah, he ends the film unconscious. He's not...
That's because John Boyega said he didn't want to come back for another film, so they left it ambiguous so that they could write him out if they had to.
That's not true. Okay.
It's called the Alec Guinness ending.
And then they succeed in blowing up the planet. Anyway, everyone gets back to the base, the Resistance base, and everyone's sort of moping around. And then R2-D2, who we saw earlier on in low power mode or something, I think they say, he wakes up and he has part of the map that BB-8 has the other part of, and they join the maps together to find where Luke is. So Rey heads off to meet Luke, Chewbacca and R2-D2, and they are in the Millennium Falcon, which I think is a bit too much, because Rey is obviously going to be the new Jedi of the series, and you can't be a new Jedi and pilot the Millennium Falcon. That's too much good stuff. You can't do all that.
They said you can't direct Star Trek and Star Wars, and this film is a middle finger to that.
Fair enough.
Did you notice that BB-8 kind of just gets forgotten about in the last third of the film? Because he's kind of out of place now. It's just like, oh. Did you notice as well, when they went to meet the little yellow thing?
Yoda.
Minion.
There was this shot and they're all there. They go up these stairs to the pub or whatever. And just as BB-8 gets to the stairs, it sort of subtly pans away. And then we go in the door and we're in the place and BB-8's there with them. It's like, How do we get him up the stairs? Let's just pan away and not directly address that. I'm sure there's some way of getting him up there.
We do see him go down some stairs.
Down,
actually.
yes.
Down's a lot easier than up
down.
as a ball.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not if you're a horse.
Anyway, we get the ending where Rey climbs a little mountain hill thing and takes out Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and presents it to him.
And he's looking at her like a sad dog.
I teared up. I was so thrilled by this ending. Yeah.
Well, my main thought with that scene, I liked it. It worked. She hands out the lightsaber. He looks, and it's like, oh my god, this moment, and then it goes da 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 da, like the music kicks in, the credits. But instead of doing that, they just hold on for about another 17 seconds of just her pointing the lightsaber out. He's like, it just goes on 3 times longer than it should do, and it just loses all the tension that it creates.
And it does beg the question how the next one's going to work with 2 Yodas, because you've got Luke now and Minion.
She's gone. She's not going to get involved. He's Obi-Wan.
Oh no, she's
Yoda.
back.
Yeah, but she's not going to get she's not. Is she a Jedi? She's not a Jedi.
She's Yoda.
No.
So she's not going to. Well, she's not. She can't train just because she's short.
She's busy looking after Gru and going off on adventures with with him and Kevin and Bob and the gang. Stuart and
anyway
and Lucy, is it Gru's
who knows?
girlfriend?
Grucy
and the girls.
And the girls.
And Drew, his brother from the new one.
Okay, it's not relevant. Anything else before we...
Well, my last point is that this film brought John Williams back to do the score. Not a single remotely memorable new theme. Just completely rehashed music. And when you consider that even Attack of the Clones managed to give us a memorable new theme, not to mention Duel of the Fates in The Phantom Menace, I think that is offensive.
I think Rey has a theme, which is quite nice. But yeah, I agree that I think the music is lacking. The only time I really notice it is when it's reprising a theme from the old trilogy, so like Luke's theme at the end, or Princess Leia's theme. Imperial March plays for a few bars when we see Vader's helmet, but that's it really.
Talking of Star Wars music, do you guys remember that I've prepared a Star Wars music quiz?
No.
Well, I have. Remember our James Bond quiz where we did that music?
Yeah.
And you had to guess if it was Bond or Schmond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're doing much the same thing now, because you have to tell me if the following tracks are Star Wars or... Come on, help me out with this. Star Schmores. I've got a selection of bits of music for you, and you have to tell me if they are from official... Basically, is it a Star Wars piece of music officially? Is it something officially to do with Star Wars? Or is it not? Is it something I've put in there to throw you off the scent? Very similar quiz.
Okay. I don't think I'll be very good at this one.
So you get a point. You get a point for a correct guess, whether it's real or not. And then if you can tell me what the thing is actually from, then I'll chuck you another point. Right. Are we ready?
Okay.
Yep, let's go.
Yeah, well, that was the Star Wars theme tune as a 80s game show. By the sounds of it.
Do you think that was an official production, or?
Well, if it wasn't, it was definitely a rip-off. An officially rip-off.
You know, it might be some sort of bootleg.
I think it must be official. Yeah, it'd be like.
Yeah, it was a nice, easy one to start with. That was the...
Is that the holiday special?
That was the... no, it's medley Star Wars 12-inch version by Miko from music inspired by Star Wars and Other Galactic Funk, which was an officially sanctioned Star Wars product released in the... I want to say the 70s, maybe the 80s. Anyway, that's your easy starting question.
Your starter for 10.
Hey, Yamala Tika Tika, hee-ha! Hey, Yamala Tika Tika, hee-ha! Ow, 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 hooty, titty, 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 haboo, boo, boo, baboo. Hooty,
That was the Minions. Is there an album like Minions do songs from the films? Sounds of Hollywood by the Minions.
Possibly, but no, I mean you're correct. Those are the Minions with Tiki Babaloo from Despicable Me 3. So there you go.
What?
You'll know why I've done that in a minute.
Oh!
That's got to be the Ewoks, right?
Yes, it's the original ending song from Return of the Jedi. Nyub nyub.
It's the Minions, isn't it? Sounded like it.
No, it's Ewoks.
So basically,
Nyub.
so what you're saying is that the Minions are guilty of cultural appropriation.
Well, yeah, but then Star Wars did it back to him, so it's so good. Okay, next.
We are the friendly spirits from the forest glow. We're friendly spirits from the forest glow. We are
I don't think that's official Star Wars. I think that's Schmar Wars.
Oh, Calvin, what do you think about that one?
I've never heard it before, so I'm also going to go Schmar Wars.
I've beaten you both. It's that is the Ewoks theme tune from the Ewoks cartoon series.
Oh.
Is that the theme to the whole show?
Yeah.
It's not very catchy.
No, it's really odd, isn't it? It's like some fucking experimental Devo song. It's weird. Anyway, next up.
Okay, I think this is going to be the main theme song.
So you think that's the main theme tune to something, do you, Calvin?
I was going to say the main theme tune to another 1970s, 80s sci-fi adventure that was going to be ripping off Star Wars, but then the lyrics started and I quickly realised that no, this is Schmar Wars.
I think this is a song called Chewbacca, which is a song made to commemorate Chewbacca by Electric Six.
No, you're right to be looking out for Electric Six, as we all know. I'm a big fan, and I will crowbar them in wherever possible. But that was Chewbacca by Supernova Chili, and it was used most famously in Clerks, the Kevin Smith film.
Yes, that rings a bell.
Moving swiftly on.
I think this is music from a Star Wars video game.
That sounded to me like a 12-piece orchestra trying to do music that was written for a 72-piece orchestra. Like it was just wasn't quite big enough. Like it needed a bit more kick.
That's why I'm thinking game.
Well, so I'm thinking, cheap version of
TV
proper
show.
music. So I think it might be official music, but I don't know what for.
Yeah.
like a school band doing it or something.
Did Michael Giacchino score any Star Wars video games?
No, that was the Imperial Suite from Rogue One. Poor Michael Giacchino.
Oh no!
Oh shit!
Oh
Harsh
dear!
words there.
Didn't even know what. Yeah, God.
We watched it a few days ago. It's not very memorable, is it?
But I got that it was Michael Giacchino.
That is true. Yeah, very, very well done there. Yeah.
I assumed he must have, because I know he did video games when he was like starting out. So
Right, next one.
General test for movie. Quick, make me a gizzy on. Acting except nothing. Got jazz by snakes as his eyes. Laughing neck, and a rhyme jack, got to pick me up. Laughing neck, keep a hand wet, just keep a bed. Laughing neck, and a rhyme jack, sabotage again. Wow!
Toe tapping fun.
Is that the song that Droopy McCool plays in the cantina?
Oh, you know how the cantina music goes. The boopy 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 boop boop.
Oh yeah, that's right. What's the bit where Jabba's got a slave girl singing?
That's that is the bit with McCool, whatever his name
is
is, isn't it?
No, that is Lapti Neck, which is performed by Jabba's slave girl, I believe, at some point in the film.
Oh,
So, well remembered.
I got it.
Yeah,
I nailed it.
Lapti Neck.
Come on.
I think that song was changed to another one
That
for the
wouldn't
special
surprise me,
editions.
it's the
But
sort of
anyway,
thing.
Girl meets boy. They fall in love. She says he's everything she's dreamed of. But when they get married, before he's aware, she changes his habits, the way he combs his hair. She changes him to someone he's never been, and then complains he's not like other men. Now really, I find this most illogical. Take the case of your automobiles.
Well, that music style predates 1977, so it's not Star Wars. But I do believe that maybe Leonard Nimoy, Spock sings songs from the shows or something like that, whatever it was.
Yeah, that was the song "Highly Illogical" by Leonard Nimoy in character as Spock. You are quite correct. It's basically just him listing. Don't you just hate it when type situations, and then going highly illogical.
Let me see. We have a scarf for Skywalker, right? Yes. And perfume for the princess?
Yes.
What about Han Solo?
Couldn't we get him earmuffs?
That leaves one big problem.
The Wookiee.
Couldn't we get him a comb?
He gave him a comb last year.
What can you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? What can you get in a hurry for a furry kind of friend like that? Take home. He doesn't need a tie clip, and he doesn't use shaving foam. So what can you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? It's really a problem. What can you get a Wookiee?
What can you get a Wookiee for Christmas?
When he already owns a comb.
I believe that was some kind of official song.
Star
wasn't
Wars Does Christmas.
It was from the official Star Wars album "Christmas in the Stars" by Miko, who did that disco version of the Star Wars theme you heard earlier.
It's Electric Six.
They go. They go. They go. They go. They go. Star. They go. They go. They go.
That's easily the worst thing you've ever done.
That's a remix I made earlier.
I think you need to do a full version and post it online.
Oh.
You gentlemen can watch while I'm scrubbing the floors, and I'm scrubbing the floors while you're gawking. And maybe once you tip me and it makes you feel swell on a ratty waterfront in a ratty old hotel, and you never guess to who you're talking. You never guess to who you're talking. Suddenly...
Christopher Walken. That was B. Arthur.
Yes.
So I don't know what that was from.
That wasn't her song from the holiday special.
Oh, you've avoided my dastardly trap.
Is that just you doing a B. Arthur connection to try
It
and
is that
trick
was
us?
B. Arthur performing the Threepenny Opera by Bertolt Brecht wrote that.
No, I know that song well from the Christmas special.
Because now we have this one, our grand finale.
Just one more round, friend,
Oh, yes.
then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend.
There's no rhyming in that song.
There's no timing in that.
I mean, there's barely any music in that song, to be honest. It's oh dear.
I like it when they bring in the little... and they just... Oh, I really like... That's my favourite bit of that holiday special. I really hope we can review it next year.
So,
Right. Pictures.
For pictures, can I go first?
yeah.
Yes.
Because I haven't got a plot as such. I tried to come up with some predictions of what's going to happen, and in terms of in real terms, like not just me being silly. These are things that I think could actually happen, and some of them are a bit more obvious than others. And feel free to kind of add on or whatever.
All right. First prediction of mine: opening crawl. And the Star Wars theme
that's
plays.
Well, bear in mind, I don't really know anything about Star Wars. I read up on it, so all I know really is what the film we just watched and the trailer. I've seen the trailers for what's coming up.
Should we very quickly touch on the Last Jedi?
Sure.
There's not much to
before
touch
we
on.
get into this? Yeah, there's not a massive amount, but Ryan Johnson is directing this one.
Hopeful.
Perhaps somewhat foolishly, I am getting vaguely excited at the prospect of going to see it, because I like his work.
Yeah.
I think this one has the potential to be the best Star Wars film there is, to be perfectly honest. I think it could do that.
Like, the argument in favour of The Force Awakens being a complete and utter rehash was that they had to kind of re-establish the tone after the prequels. I mean, I'd argue that's total horseshit and a poor excuse, but they don't have that going in favour of this one, so I do think there's scope now to do something completely different. I'm not convinced they will, but I don't know, it could be alright. We'll see, I guess. Like I say, Ryan Johnson, good. And he's now doing his own Star Wars trilogy spin-off series that's nothing to do with the Skywalker saga, which suggests Disney are happy with
Which
him.
just suggests they've been happy with what he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, my concern is this is being the second film of the trilogy, is that nothing's going to happen and it'll be all irrelevant, and we're just jumped into the third one, as is tradition.
Yeah, I will be pissed off if there's no ending, like The Empire Strikes Back.
Well, I mean, I don't think there'll be a satisfying ending. Okay, so I don't think Kylo Ren will get any redemption until the third film. So this film is just going to be completely, he's just going evil.
Yeah. Although maybe he'll turn good at the very end to fight against Snoke, but I doubt it. I think they're saving it for the very end because he's a Darth Vader clone.
I'm going for the third film is going to be Kylo Ren versus the world. So I think the second film is going to be about wiping out any of his allies. So the big giant head guy. And anything else basically, but the other part of that is the stormtroopers. This is where Finn comes in. I think they didn't do anything with him being a stormtrooper, so that's all going to come in the second film, where he essentially incites rebellion within the stormtroopers. Somehow he gets to them and says, hey guys, look, we don't have to fight for these guys, and it's going to become this big
That'd be
thing.
good.
And I think that's going to be like a big ending.
Yeah, that'd
when
be quite cool.
like it's some big fight, and the good guys are losing, and then look, the stormtroopers are coming. Wait a minute, they're on our side. We're saved, yay! That kind of big. But yeah, I think they've got to do something with that because it's so disappointing that they didn't do anything. With
Yeah.
it. Like they could have even put in a gag like how he wasn't very good at shooting.
Don't they train you guys?
They're not bothered about shooting. They just sort of think the numbers are going to make up for it. So I think we've got to do something more about, hey, look, all these stormtroopers are real guys, and so they can rise up and kind of turn against you. So
You're gonna have to come up with a way of like making them all distinctive looking though. So one's got a chip on his helmet, one's got a bow on the helmet because they're the girl. One's got a scratch. I mean, what else can you do?
Sunglasses.
One of the helmets is a bit warped, melted because he left it in the sun on like a really hot planet.
One's got like the peace symbol drawn.
Yeah.
If you've seen the trailer, Chewbacca has a little penguin pet thing.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a big deal because that's your new toy.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that a lot over the next 6 months.
Oh god, yeah.
On every lunchbox and stuff. But they're obviously going to try and make it like the little tree thing in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I think that's where you're going with that.
Or an Ewok. I mean.
Oh yeah. The other thing is that I think we'll be introduced to like a completely new species that'll have to band together to help. And they'll have to band together to defeat the enemy in some way.
Yeah,
like
that's
Ewoks,
in the trailer,
basically.
isn't it? There's the Porg, and there's that kind of like intelligent Porg or something.
What's a Porg?
The penguin.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was tying it into. I was thinking like, I think we're going to have all those things, and he'll be like the leader or whatever, the one that buddies up with Chewbacca. But I didn't know I didn't even know they had a name. I didn't know that was an official thing. Now, interesting that you said something earlier, Saul, here, which I've put in here that what I want, but I don't think they've got the courage to do it, is for Luke to go to the dark side. Luke goes evil.
I don't see why they do that in the middle, although that would be the lowest of the low. They do, like, if this is going to be... What my prediction for this film is that they will go dark and try and make this as low as possible, because that's Empire, and everyone who loves Empire loves that it gets to such a low point before making everything happy again in the third one. So I think they're going to emulate that as much as they can. So that would be a good way to go out on a real bum note and just depress everyone, having Luke be like, fuck it, I'm evil. But I don't think they'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it'd have to come good again at the end, but not necessarily the end of this film.
I don't think they'll do it,
Maybe
and
in
I
the third
think it's a
film.
shame, because the time to do that was, 30 years have passed. We're in The Force Awakens. Oh, he's a big evil guy now.
Well, yeah, and it would be good, and like we see in the latest trailer, basically he says, "Oh, the Jedi have to be wiped out," or something. That's not quite the words he uses, but he says the Jedi has to end. So he's obviously like, right, the Force is too powerful to anyone to have it because they can turn evil. So we need to destroy the Force, therefore destroy all the Jedis. And like then he makes it his mission to like kill everybody. That'd be great. And like he'd have to kill Rey, and who then he sort of like turns out to be his daughter, and so then he's like, oh. I mean, if there's anything that Star Wars does well, it's daddy issues. So that would be perfectly in keeping with it. And because she'd have to kill him, she'd have to kill him to put it all to an end. Anyway, but if they did have him go evil, they'd have to have him come good. They couldn't just kill him off. He'd have to come good, but then die in some sacrificial way. Anyway, what I think, I don't think that's going to happen, frankly. But I think that with a big part of the beginning is Rey is going to be training to be a Jedi. Probably with Luke, he's like a new Obi-Wan.
Yeah, we'll have a few training montages, and she'll probably go into a big tree at one point. And
yeah, what about Yoda? Is he gonna turn up?
Is he still alive?
No, he's dead.
Is he dead? What happens to him? I couldn't remember what happens
dies
in the prequels.
he becomes the Force Ghost in Return of the Jedi.
That's it. You can bring him back as the Force
Hey, yeah, you can
Ghost.
bring them all back as the Force Ghosts. Oh, I bet they... Ooh. I hope in Star Wars Episode 9, it ends with, like, Han Solo, Luke after he's died, everyone doing a little Force Ghost nod of approval to Rey, but, like, all the original Force Ghosts are there. So you've got Darth Vader, Alec Guinness, Yoda, and it's like just getting too big, and it's like you can barely, those posters of the Simpsons characters where there's like hundreds of Simpsons characters, and it's like, whoa, look at how many characters there are. It's like that, but Force Ghosts. You've got Admiral Akbar, because they should kill him off in the next one. You just have everyone. I know he's not a Jedi, but like he should be there.
Well, I think the beginning of the film is going to be like Rey. They're all sort of separated. Rey is going to be learning the Force and all that sort of shit. So that's going to be like the bulk of the beginning. But I think...
It's like The Empire Strikes Back, isn't it?
Yeah, at some point she's going to be overwhelmed by the Force and she can't handle it, and so she runs away.
After she goes into a tree and like fights.
Has loads of doubts, lots of internal conflict, and obviously comes good at the end. But I think there's going to be a big chunk where she's like off and everyone's going, we need her to help us. She's not going to help us. Ugh.
There's going to be a bit where it's really cold and she has to cut open a porg and climb inside it for warmth.
A tiny porg.
Yeah.
What about this? If Luke does remain a good guy, he will be dead by the end of the second film.
I doubt it.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I can't imagine that now.
Does he have to die to motivate her?
Possibly. I think if he was going to die...
It would be just the first series of films. But...
If he dies, then we have no Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, or Mark
Exactly.
Hamill.
I think that's what they want, though. I think they want... Look, we've done it, we've tied it in, fuck off.
No, they've got a 3-part thing here. They like, I think they would have kept Carrie Fisher as their main connective tissue, but she died,
Yes.
so... And Han Solo's been killed off, so I think... they whether or not they plan to kill Luke at the very end, I think he'll probably stick around to the last film, even if he's only in it for 2 minutes at the start, and then he kind of turns to Rey and gets lightsabered and disappears into nothing, which you just know is going to be how he goes out.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, what about Rey having a bit of romantic entanglement? I think that they've got to throw a bit of that in there.
Yeah, probably,
It seems like Finn fancies her, but she's not interested. So I think
her and Luke.
I mean, it would be in keeping with the
and then they kiss, but then they find out that she's his daughter in the next film, and they're a bit like, oh, gross.
Oh, here's a good prediction. This is a proper, completely speculative prediction. I think one of the characters will lose an eye, and then in the third film we'll have a really badass looking eye patch. My money's on Poe.
I was about to say I can see that happening with Poe. Might be a bit too Snake Plissken or whatever the fuck he's called, but
yeah, I think that's exactly what it's going to be like. Yeah. Oh, the other thing is at the end of the film, they'll think that Kylo Ren is dead and everyone will be happy, but then we'll have like a little like his grave with soil just hovering over it or something. Yeah, or just like a little twitch of the eye or something, like, oh, he's dead, and then credits, boom. That's the ending.
Whatever happens, they'll put him in a life support suit that makes him more menacing.
That's about it. I mean, if any of that is true, I'm going to claim complete credit. By just making... I figured if I made enough predictions, one of them's going to stick, and then I can go, yep, got that.
All right, you go next then, Calvin. What's yours, Calvin?
Right, well, I thought, seeing as this film is basically a New Hope with a bit of Empire Strikes Back peppered in there. Have you just done Empire Strikes Back as...
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fine, because I haven't.
Oh, okay, cool.
I decided to do an off-kilter thing and close my eyes and wave my finger around in front of all my Blu-rays on my shelf and point at one and retrofit that into being the next Star Wars film.
Wait. I've got flag on the fields. All your DVDs are going to be in alphabetical order, so you know exactly where they all are.
No, they're organised by studio.
Oh, for fuck's sake, that's the worst way you could possibly order them.
No, because then all the studio logos match up and the BBFC things.
But what about when a franchise moves from one studio to the other? You can't put your Star Wars movies together because 3 of them are 20th Century Fox.
I know.
Don't you think
it's really annoying?
It's only annoying because you're a prisoner of your own fucking creation.
That is really weird, you know, that you have to have the studio logos lined up.
But what about when the logos don't even line up?
Yeah, do they have them in the
cases?
exact same
'Cause
place?
they don't always consistently match up.
Well, no, but then it's fine because then you can sort of put all the ones that do match up together, and then they sort of gradually.
Well, I was going to say, how do you within studio order? Like, how do you order them within those groups?
I don't really.
This is madness. This is awful.
It's generally whichever is most aesthetically pleasing. So, for example, Kick-Ass has a red spine. But other movies around that space tend to have white or black.
I do not approve
No,
of
this
this.
is
Honestly,
complete chaos.
it would be. I would rather you ordered them just in like a spectrum, like from white to black, going through every color on the. That would make more sense to me than what you're describing right now. This is dreadful.
My my DVDs are ordered in star sign of the director.
I mean, I have an odd ordering process actually, but I think it makes sense. Mine are in order.
What is it?
Well, mine are in like rank order from like how little I like them to how much I like them, but then clumped together by franchise. So all the franchises are together. So if within a franchise it's the best thing and that franchise is the one that like places it. But that's good because it means that you've got all your favourites like ready to grab at the top. But if you want something that's not as good, you have to dig a bit deeper, get on your knees, look down at the bottom.
Surely the point of these things is to have easily accessible. That's why you do it in like alphabetical order, because you go, right, what am I looking for?
No, it's easily accessible because all the ones I like to go to again and again, my favourites are at the top, so I can get them right away. Easily accessible.
Well, I don't know. Like, how many studios are represented? I want to know how complex this system is, because it sounds ridiculous.
You've been to my flat. You've seen this.
I didn't look at your Blu-ray.
I just assumed it was in like random order. Just they don't appear to be in any comprehensible order. So
I have mine in order of the ones that I want to be seen with, are the most visible. So in case anyone ever comes around, they go, "Oh yeah, nice taste in films you've got there." And then like Basketball is behind, where you can't see it, but I get that one out. Anyway, that was a nice little diversion.
So
what were you saying?
I stood in front of my shelf and waved
all right,
my
so
finger
don't
around.
tell us what it is. I think we should play a game to see which one of us like guesses first, which one it was, me or Alan.
Oh, this is a really good idea. Okay, then, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You know, I've got them in studio sections.
Yes.
Are the studios ordered in any particular way?
No, actually,
Oh,
no.
Calvin, this is madness. This is really annoying.
So you're going to give us your pitch, and we've got to figure out what film it's based on.
Yes,
Okay, go for it.
yes.
All right.
So my film starts right from where episode 7 left off, because I'm adapting the film to,
Yeah.
that I randomly picked to make sense of this. So we pick up right where we left off. Luke accepts the lightsaber from Rey. Big emotional moment, and they go and have a wee chat. And they're talking about like how Princess Leia really wants to see him again. She's been looking for him for so long, and all this kind of stuff. And Luke's really like, he doesn't know if he can quite like do it. It's been so long. They had a big falling out when he originally left. They had a big argument. Then they parted on bad terms, and he's not sure that he can go back and go face to face with her. But he really wants to see R2D2 and BB-8 and C-3PO and all the other
Even you
characters
can't
that
tell them apart.
He really wants to see those characters again, but he doesn't think Leia will let him. So it turns out that Rey is actually a really talented makeup artist.
Yeah,
I know what it is. I know what it is.
So
I didn't.
Luke decides to disguise himself as a Scottish old lady, and
You should have done this one last because it sets up next week very nicely.
it does actually, doesn't it?
Oh,
Yes.
who's the Pierce Brosnan character?
Poe.
Poe. So
Yeah.
Poe is shagging Leia.
Well, no, they're not shagging because it's platonic. It's a platonic love that we're dealing with here because Poe is her new favourite,
Yeah.
and
Of course, Luke
because
doesn't want to shag
obviously-
Leia either. Well, he wants to, but he can't.
So he goes back to the rebel base and introduces himself as Mrs. Doubtfire. And
Not even like Mrs.
did you guess that? Did you get it?
I thought you were doing Jurassic Park.
I was expecting a new name. I thought it was gonna be like Mrs. Power Force or I don't know.
Yeah. He has to come up with a fake name, and he looks around him and he goes, Mrs. Lightsaber.
Anyway, so yeah, he goes to the rebel base and introduces himself as the new droid caretaker. And he's so happy to spend time with 3PO and oh god, I keep doing it. BB-8 again. And they bond and they go and like
James Bond.
and they go and like play in a park and stuff. And then Mugger tries to take Mrs. Doubtfire's lightsaber, and he's like, he breaks character, just like, fuck off, man. And threatens to punch the guy. And then they're on a bus, and a bus driver like
Wait, who's Mrs.
tries
Doubtfire?
flirting.
Luke.
Yes.
Ding dong. Oh, it's Scottish Luke Skywalker.
Hello, dearies!
I think Mark Hamill would be well up for this, by the way.
That's true.
Oh god, is the Joker never like dressed up as a Scottish peasant woman to infiltrate a building?
Well,
It seems like the sort of
I'm
thing.
looking forward to the return of. Oh my god! I can't believe it. What's it?
Well, that's Rey. That's Rey.
Oh, so she's got to do the voice.
Yeah. So we have plenty of scenes of Luke bonding with the kids, with C-3PO and
Is there
BB-8. But
is there a bit where
it-
C-3PO walks in the toilet and he's like standing up having a wee and he's like, oh my, this is not what I expected. Most illogical.
But then obviously Luke is getting quite upset throughout this whole thing because he's never met Poe before, and now
He's
he
never
sees
met
that the droids
BB-8
are
before
actually-
either, but apparently he's very keen on him.
And he's realizing that the droids actually quite like this new guy who Princess Leia's got hanging around, General Leia. So and then he meets Maz Kanata, who offers him a job on her new TV show as the host. And she offers to meet Luke at her cantina, which was unfortunately on the same night that Leia and Poe and C-3PO and BB-8 were planning a family. Sorry, I got my again.
Is Luke also like the voice of Porky Pig?
Well, he is a established voice actor, you know. He
Yeah,
can pull
yeah,
that off
exactly.
easily.
Yeah, no, it all fits.
It's
It all fits.
perfect.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so Luke has to juggle between his job interview with Maz and trying to appear nice to the family. And obviously this all goes tits up when Poe Dameron starts choking on a bit of blue milk. and Luke has to leap over the bar to Heimlich maneuver the blue milk out of him. And then his like prosthetics all come off, and Leia's like really upset and stuff. And she says,
You've got a beard.
Luke, I have to leave. We have to leave. We have to go right now. We have to go." She does that whole thing, and and then C-3PO is upset, and so is BB-8. Anyway, they go to court, and Leia changes the visitation custody rights that Luke previously had.
Yeah.
And he gets to see the kids on weekends. The droids.
The happy
droids.
ending.
Yeah, happy ending.
And of course, Carrie Fisher in real life did script doctor work on Mrs. Doubtfire.
No way!
No, she didn't really. I just made that up.
Isn't she?
Like, I could have believed that. I could have gone the rest of my life telling people that. Looks great on Blu-ray, by the way, Mrs. Doubtfire.
What studio is it?
20th Century Fox.
What's it next to?
Well, Disney were looking at buying them out recently. Maybe they were actually hoping to make the Mrs. Doubtfire remade within the Star Wars universe thing a reality. Maybe that's.
I think so. If you give me a moment, I can go and look at my shelf and then tell you what it's in between.
What we nearly had.
20th Century Fox. I mean, this is the problem. It's probably next to like Alien versus Predator and.
Oh, Sol, you are so close. It is in between Prometheus and X-Men Days of Future Past.
Sake. Oh god. It's stressing me out to think of this shelf.
Anyway, Sol,
Right.
you have a pitch.
Yeah. Well, as we just touched on, we know what I'm doing. So The Force Awakens, it's Star Wars: A New Hope.
Okay,
I just redid it. So I just, this is my prediction for what the next one's going to be. Just a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. I nearly did a rehash of Toy Story 2 because I've done that sometimes on the show in the past, but I didn't. I'm glad I didn't now after Calvin's pitch. As I say, let's see how similar this is to what we actually get. 3 years after the destruction of the third Death Star, the new Rebel Alliance it's been driven from their former base to this really cold, icy planet. I've gone with Hogth as a name, but it could be anything.
Shoth.
Some new, Frost. The new bad guys, led by Kylo Ren, are looking for them, and a probe that he sends out finds them. There's a big battle with these new robots that are like big robot llamas. They've got this thing where they spit at people just to like make them a little bit more interesting.
Spit fire.
The rebels are forced to... Yeah. No, lasers. No, fireballs, yeah. Because it's icy and it'll melt the ice. That'll be cool. The rebels are forced to retreat, and then Poe and Finn escape on the Millennium Falcon with C-3PO and Chewbacca, but the hyperdrive malfunctions, so they hide in a field of tiny moons, and then they have a little snog. That's your romance there, Finn. Kylo sends out a notorious bounty hunter. This is a new character that we're going to get to find them. We then cut to Rey, who we last saw approaching Luke Skywalker on his rock. Luke reluctantly accepts her as a student and trains her to be a Jedi. Poe and Finn go to visit Poe's old friend, Randy Paulson, but they lead the bounty hunter to them inadvertently, and Randy hands them over. He sort of double crosses his old mate. Ren then has a premonition of her friends in trouble and pain, so she leaves to save them, which really pisses Luke off. Kylo Ren then has Poe frozen in a block of siliconite, and Randy, feeling bad about what he did, and also having been double-crossed by Kylo, initiates an escape, and they all get away apart from Poe. After arriving there to help, Rey has a fight with Kylo, and he chops off her left foot. And then I've written a bit of dialogue for them. Luke never told you what happened to your cousin. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No, I am your cousin. No! And she drops into a shaft and falls into the sky, but is able to telepathically summon Finn and that lot to rescue her in the Millennium Falcon. They have a big action scene escaping. She gets a robotic peg leg, and they set off to find Poe and save him. The end. And look forward to the fourth biggest Death Star yet in Star Wars Episode 9.
Are they gonna address this concept of Luke as her father?
I mean, yeah, they must. They will.
Are they going to come into play, or is it going to be the third film they're going to have a big thing about?
Oh, maybe in the third one. I reckon they'll do it in this one, because... Do you know what I'd like to see in the new one?
Okay, go on.
If I could like have a wish list of like best things. I mean, number one, obviously, we want to see old Jar Jar. Jar Jar is an old man. That goes without saying. That's just
that would be pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So
me's are so tired.
But no, my biggest wish list dream scene for the next film is a scene where Kylo Ren picks up BB-8 and like drop kicks him like a football into a goal across the field.
That would be pretty good.
What I'd like to see is when BB-8, like if he drops from a height or something, like his body drops, but like his head separates slightly and then pops back on like a cartoon like character.
I'm with you there, Calvin. What's your most wished for scene in the next one?
That it would be 2.5 hours of just C-3PO in every scene. But I don't think that I'm likely to get that.
Have you mastered the old C-3PO voice yet? You need to change it a bit.
Oh, hello, R2. It's me.
All right, not that
C-3PO.
Should we finish off our Star Wars season then by ranking the films, all of them?
Yeah.
Worst to best. See how we place them.
Yeah.
So for me, starting at the worst, we've got Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, dreadful film. 3.5 out of 10 for that one. Then Episode 1, Phantom Menace, 4 out of 10, dreadful. Then we have Episode 7, The Force Awakens, 5 out of 10. Not a good film. Episode 3, Revenge of...
You should have made that clear.
Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, 6.5. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, 6.5. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, 6.5. Rogue One, 6.5. And then at the top, the original Star Wars. Later changed to Episode 4, A New Hope.
I'll go with mine. We're doing worst to best, right?
Yes.
Okay, so worst to best would be Attack of the Clones at the bottom, then Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, this is madness.
Phantom Menace.
Ooh.
It's
It's got to be Force Awakens next, surely.
Yeah, it is. Force Awakens, then Rogue One, and then A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Alan?
Attack of the Clones. 3. Shit.
All right.
Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
5.
Wow.
5.
Oh.
The Sith one. 5. Return of the Jedi. 5. But better than the other two, to give it some credit.
God.
Phantom Menace 6.
This is fucking mental, Alan.
My God. This is the worst Star Wars ranking ever.
Come on, then.
Force Awakens 7.
Oh, fucking hell.
I thought it was alright. I thought it did exactly what a Star Wars film should do.
I bet if you watched it immediately after the 3 prequels, you'd be going, "Oh, Force Awakens, worst Star Wars film ever made."
Rogue One, 7, but better than Force Awakens. I preferred that as a film. I don't think it fits in with Star Wars very well, but it's not really supposed to, is it? So it's alright. And then the original Star Wars 8, I still think it's a very... And I've never been a big fan of it, but I think it does what it's supposed to do. It's very solid, and there's a reason why it was popular. So yeah, there you go.
Interesting. Ooh, that was Star Wars Season, a trilogy of episodes following on from our original Star Wars episode. So now there's 4 Star Wars episodes of Diminishing Returns. If you enjoyed this but haven't heard those other ones, go and check them out. And indeed, check out all the episodes of the show that we've made to date. There's loads of them. Go to dimreturns.com. That's a good hub. You can see everything that's going on with the show. All the episodes are available there. And of course, if you've enjoyed this Star Wars season, please do us the favour, of rating and reviewing us on iTunes and liking us on Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. You know the drill. @DimReturnsPod is us on Twitter. And facebook.com/Diminishing Returns Podcast. That's us on Facebook. So, once again, thank you ever so much for your support. Of course, more than anything, just tell your friends, spread the word. Help us conquer the galaxy, one listener at a time. Next week, we're back to our normal format, just doing a film tying into a release coming out soon. And then, it's our big Christmas special, which is going to be something rather special. So look forward to that. And then it's our big review of the year episode, where we look back at everything that has been and gone this past year. So we should be seeing out the year in style, and we invite you to join us for that. See you next week. Bye.